How dare you needlessly endanger the lives of our law enforcement officers to promote a radical open borders agenda? California absolutely appears to me is using every power it has, powers it doesn't have, to frustrate federal law enforcement. So you can be sure I'm going to use every power I have to stop that. We're going to fight these irrational, unfair, unconstitutional policies that have been imposed on you and your officers, on our federal officers.
The market's bouncing back, still closing fresh. 107 House Republicans urging President Trump to target tariffs to bad actors to protect America's jobs. We've got the details. This, as U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions in Sacramento, California, touting the administration's lawsuit against California over its sanctuary laws, saying California violates the Constitution for shielding criminal illegals from federal enforcement. Democrat Governor Jerry Brown firing back. So is the Oakland mayor singled out by Jeff Sessions, the mayor who gave the heads up to illegals about coming ICE raids. Tonight, we bring on a California sheriff who says they are risking the security of their state citizens. And President Trump finally heading to California next Tuesday to inspect prototypes for his proposed southern border wall. We're on it. Florida now poised to enact new legislation on guns and school safety after the school shooting 3 weeks ago. Tonight, we bring on a lawyer representing the 20-year-old suing retail giants Dick's Sporting Goods and Walmart for age discrimination on gun sales. The companies now say they will not sell guns to anyone under the age of 21. We take that on. Plus, a stunning sea change in the Democrat Party. A big wake-up call. Looks like it's finally being heard by Democrats, criticized for ignoring blue-collar working-class employees for too long. In Pennsylvania, Democrat Connor Lamb now in a tight race to win a House seat, as he says he does not support Nancy Pelosi. And now this, you will not believe which top Democrat agrees with Connor Lamb, saying Democrats do not understand the working class anymore. Find out who it is, and we've got Joe the Plumber here to react coming up. Tonight, an all-star guest lineup, California Sheriff Margaret Mims, who met with the Attorney General today. Also, Legal Eagle Jordan Seculo, Forbes Media Chair Steve Forbes, and Conservative Review TV host Ali Stuckey, all here, all tonight. Politics Money, we got you covered. I'm Elizabeth McDonald. Risk and Reward starts right now.
A 4-time deported illegal alien that had done 5 years in prison for attempted murder and had a 15-year rap sheet just pulled up next dispenser and randomly blew his brains out.
Joshua went to school one day, and unbeknownst to me, a classmate asked him for a ride home. We found out at the trial that his intent was to murder Josh for his truck. He brutally beat him, crushed his face in a voice box. He beat him in the head with a closet rod 4 times until it broke. He strangled him over and over again, tortured him. He tied him up like an animal, dropped him in a field, and set him on fire.
And the illegal immigrant, intoxicated, hit him from behind, doing probably 120 miles an hour.
We're on all those stories and much more in just this moment. We want to get first to your money. Stocks rallying off of lows after the White House. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions in Sacramento touting the Trump administration's lawsuit against the state of California over its sanctuary city policies that it says gives safe harbor to dangerous and violent criminal illegals. Jeff Sessions saying California's policy violates the Constitution's supremacy clause. That clause gives federal law precedence over state enactments. The lawsuit zeroing in on 3 recently passed California laws that the administration says deliberately obstructs federal immigration policies and puts public safety at risk. But Democrats in California, including its governor, Jerry Brown, firing back, calling this lawsuit a political stunt.
This is really unprecedented for the chief law enforcement of the United States to come out to California and act more like Fox News than a law enforcement officer. When it comes to these different laws, there is no doubt that the police can do their job. Now, the federal government ought to do its job and not blame California for its own inability to solve the problem, whether it's of crime or whether it's of immigration. That's the job for this Attorney General, and he shouldn't come out to a political show to try to engage in these tactics
Again, the president will be in California next week. Joining me now, Fresno County Sheriff Margaret Mims, who met with the Attorney General today. Good to see you, Sheriff. Thanks for coming on. Are you for or are you against California becoming a sanctuary state? And what do you think of the lawsuit against the state?
Well, first of all, the California State Sheriff's Association adamantly opposed California becoming a sanctuary state. We knew that this was not going to be good for the public that we are sworn to keep safe. As far as the lawsuit, I am not disappointed to see it. In fact, I welcome it because maybe it will add some clarity to some of the really controversial and confusing laws that are taking place. California passed 3 laws. It's a trilogy of laws that do not make our public safe. The Trust Act, the Truth Act, and the Values Act. They all have to do with protecting not law-abiding people in our communities, but criminals in our jails.
You know, Sheriff, we've interviewed many victims of illegal immigrant crime. Do people forget about the victims? There's something like 2.5 million illegals in the state of California. Is it your sense that too often people forget about the victims of these crimes?
Absolutely. In fact, because now California laws, we cannot talk to ICE about certain people in our jails. They're free to go out and recommit crimes. We're creating additional victims. And there's such a focus on protecting the criminals that by the time you get booked into a jail in California, you've done it the old-fashioned way. You've earned it. And we're protecting people who shouldn't be here in the first place, but they are, and then they commit a crime. Why on earth would we focus on keeping it secret from ICE, whose job it is to enforce immigration laws?
Sure. Do you agree or disagree with the governor of California?
I disagree with the governor of California, and he knows I disagree with him. I do not believe this was a political ploy. I believe it's necessary, again, to add clarity to the confusing spot that sheriffs find themselves in, having to comply with state law and then having to deal with the federal government trying to work with us to keep our communities safe. It puts us in an untenable position that we need clarity on, and my hope is this lawsuit will give that clarity.
We are seeing data, Sheriff, that more than 1 out of 7 ICE apprehensions are in the state of California. Jeff Sessions saying today that California's sanctuary state policies, to your point, put both police and local communities, including immigrant communities, in danger. Let's take a listen.
We're simply asking the state and other sanctuary jurisdictions to stop actively obstructing federal law enforcement. Stop treating immigration agents differently from everybody else for the purpose of eviscerating border and immigration laws. Stop protecting lawbreakers and giving all officers more dangerous work to do so that politicians can score political points on the backs of officer safety.
Yeah, but Governor Jerry Brown and Democrats are really blasting Jeff Sessions in the White House, saying this is all a political stunt. That California is just fine. Go ahead.
You know, we told legislators when this law was pending that the unintended consequences that's going to happen as a result is ICE is going to continue to do their job as they should, but they're going to do their job out in our communities rather than in a safe, controlled environment like our county jails. And that's exactly what's happened. In fact, the governor admitted when he signed off on the law that California's not prohibiting ICE from doing its job. Now, what we predicted is coming true. So there's no surprise. There should be absolutely no surprise to legislators. And it's sad that now, because we cannot communicate with ICE and work with him in our jails, that now we're out in our communities and they're trying to do their jobs. We need to stop vilifying our hardworking ICE agents and our federal law enforcement partners. They're doing their jobs. Law enforcement has to enforce the law. Teachers have to teach. Preachers have to preach. And we're not going to apologize, any of us, for doing our jobs.
Sheriff Margaret Mims of Fresno, California, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for your service to our country. We really appreciate you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
So does the Attorney General have a legal case? California Republican Darrell Issa is speaking out, saying what his liberal governor and state officials, the Democrats, are doing. He's saying it's unconstitutional. Watch.
It's pretty amazing because it actually says to private companies, don't cooperate with the federal government. How could you imagine, even for a moment, any state, any of our 13 original states saying don't cooperate with the federal government? That would have been so different than our founders' belief that that which was given to the federal government, you expected to cooperate in that process. This is making my state less safe, and shame on my governor, shame on my attorney general. And by the way, represented by Eric Holder, the only attorney general held in contempt, shame on Eric Holder for advising them that these laws are constitutional.
Let's bring in attorney Jordan Sekula from the American Center for Law and Justice. Good to see you, Jordan.
Good to see you, Liz.
Does the Trump administration have a case against California?
Absolutely. I mean, as Darrell Issa was saying, Congressman Issa, and he left out one key part, is that these private business owners, if they voluntarily allow ICE agents to come into their business to check the immigration status of people in California. So for all those business owners out there, small business owners and managers, if they voluntarily do that, they are subject to civil fines, monetary fines under this California law, starting at $2,000 per incident, and then it goes up to $10,000 per incident. So it's not only making it illegal for local law enforcement to